And we're live.
We're live.
Well,
Yay.
hello, Fast Abdul. I'm ChrispyMan, and this is
Well,
my
it's
sidekick,
indeed.
Fast Abdul. Either that or he's going to give me a fast kick. I'm not sure what. Hello, everyone. And a big,
Oh,
and a big hey now. I can hear myself talking in the background. I like that.
yeah.
I like that. So, what do you have for information for me on this X Bank? I guess we're going to wait for Maddie to join to really dig into that topic, though, so we can put it
I think
off.
you had more information about the current goings on. The past goings on are that BankX received a absurd amount of EHEX in their sacrifice from the God Whale. It's
Hmm.
been theorized that he either fat fingered it, like added several too many zeros, or made some sort of mistake because it didn't really seem like they used it for the good of the community.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had a ton of EHEX. I think maybe now they have less. I don't know how much less. Hopefully Maddie's got that info. But yeah, don't FOMO on BankX.
FOMO. Go full FOMO. Hey, you know what? I this could be like a dream sequence. You know, like we could I could just be thinking to myself, what if God will sent me that EHEX? What would I do? I have some good ideas. I would probably do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it would be a good thing. It would be kind of cool to have that kind of capital to put to work on the chain. I get,
Yeah,
I get, I get that BankX was doing their thing, whatever it was they were doing. But boy, what could we have done? What could we have done, Fast Abdul?
I
If
think
you
that
had,
sometimes too. You look at those the sacrifices and which sacrifices. Of course, everybody was sacrificing. They expected nothing, but which sacrifices got the biggest bucks and what people got in return. It was not always proportionate.
no, no, by far my Pulsex and Pulse was the best sacrifice I participated in. I am looking at this new sacrifice that's coming out for this P stability pool and
Yeah.
protocol.
I'm sorry,
So
Crispy, you're misinformed. There's no sacrifice for that one.
no, what?
No.
What?
Yeah, it
There's
was
no
going to be
sacrifice.
$55 million minimum sacrifice, and then somebody changed their mind, and there's not going to be a sacrifice. It's just we're just going to send it. So
Just gonna send it. Yeah, yeah. I jest, everyone. I'm teasing Mister Fast Abdul.
if I did
But
have $54 million, though, like some other sacrifices, I could probably launch a lot of things on Pulse Chain, like a lot,
to the
like
moon, to the moon. Yeah,
well, to the moon of things, but whether they'd all be good or not would be speculative at best. There could be
yeah.
many of them, like lots of
Bang,
them.
bang.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It'd be pretty cool. Well, yeah. And so for those of you who probably don't know what the hell I'm referencing, so Fast Abdul is bringing online a new project, which we may or may not have spoken about before on this channel. The
Maybe
days
in passing.
kind of running together, but this idea of creating we know about liquid loans, know about Flex, Power City. So it's an additional fork of liquidity, right? Liquidity,
Liquidity. It's actually liquidity. No D in there.
and then and so that's going to be a new fork. But what it's going to allow you to do is deposit PDI and borrow a new algo stable called
P stable.
P stable. Very man, that is so unique. I,
Yeah.
I'm
It's a little on the nose, but
I'm not sure how you could have come up with that, but that's pretty awesome, right?
yeah.
And so what are you thinking about this project and how it might help things?
Well, first off, it's not an endorsement for PDI. I'm not saying it's going to $1. What we're saying is that we think we can use it as collateral for a stablecoin that we hope will be $1. So it's a bit of an experiment to be sure, but it's a full immutable fork of Liquidity with no admin keys, just like liquid loans, just like Flex and Earn. So it'd be the third one on the chain. And as far as Liquidity forks go, like I think the three on Pulse Chain are amongst the most successful, if not the most successful. And I think right now Liquid Loans is the most successful Liquidity fork. Liquidity is a great way to make a stable coin. It's over collateralized. Stable coin that just seems to do very, very well in keeping its peg. So as far as there's been a lot of pegging talk on the Pulse chain lately.
Yeah, it's really not my thing, but yeah.
No, we're kind of the gayest chain in crypto some days. But as far as PDI goes, yeah, I'm not sure if it'll hit $1, but I think this will work. I think it could be used as collateral to make $1, and then people can use this tool, and that's what it is, to do many different things. They can use it as a stop loss. Like if they want a point where it's like, okay, I'm going to put in $2,000, I'm going to take $1,500 out. And if it drops by 70%, well, you get to keep your $1,500. That's the general idea. Or there's lots of strategies where they can use it. You could borrow $1,000, use it to buy more PDI, like, if that was what you're into, or use it on core tokens, which is what I'd really like to see people do.
Or buy Hex with it.
Yeah.
You could buy Hex with it. That would be my choice.
Yeah, use it on core tokens. So put in $10,000 with PDI and take out $5,000, buy $5,000 for the Hex, hedge your bets. Right, that's not a terrible plan at all.
Fantastic.
Things like that.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. Seeing it come out, see what happens with it.
Yep, should be good. I just got my test net from the devs today, so it's moving fast.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, testnet.
The testnet. It's not up, but like the test, I have the testnet to look at, and we're going to do our internal testing, and then we'll do our audits, and yeah, it could be a month, and we'll have this because it's relatively simple compared to previous things that myself and Yellow Cake have released.
Well, would you like to answer this question? This is from Sarah. Sarah G says, "Is there any SEC news?" ?
I'm pretty sure there's not, Sarah. I don't think we haven't heard back from the judge, right, Crispy? And that's what we're waiting for right now.
Yeah, I haven't spoken to anybody, so nope, I haven't heard nothing.
I think that would be all over Twitter.
Yeah, we'd be seeing that. I also have a question about something called T-shares. I'm not sure what that's all about. Yes.
I think that's T-shares. That's like a centralized finance, like stocks and bonds thing, right?
Yeah, some crazy stuff. Let's pull Flat Out Rich. Let's see, because I may not get another chance to talk about Hex today. We should probably talk about this. I even have visuals, man. And so I can show this up on the screen here for everybody. So what Flat Out was referencing here is what it takes to be a whale out in 2040. And it has changed. It has changed a little bit. Let me see if I can actually share it. Share the screen, Crispy. You can do it.
Press the buttons.
Press the button. You can do it. You can do it. All right. I thought I had it up. Oh, I got to add it to the stage. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. So, yes, my friends, these numbers change every few minutes, every few hours. They're not constant. But out in 2040, currently, it's required to have 91. You're required to have 91 T-shares out in 2040 to be a whale. And just over 9 T-shares to be a shark, and just under 1 T-share, just one T-share to be a dolphin. And the squid, 0.091, cool crab, etc. So these are the current requirements. And so Flat Out, since the last time I posted, it's gone up a little bit. Now you're asking about the ratcheting mechanics of Hex and price versus T-share. I'm not sure I'll hit the topic the way you're thinking about it and asking about it, but currently it's about $1,200 for a single T-share for a day, and that means to have 3 in the future, it's about $1,200, right, in 2040, which I personally believe that's beginning to become too expensive for the average person. Now, 2 things happen with the cost of T-shares. One is, of course, the T-share rate goes upwards and to the right. Right, so the T-share rate goes upwards and to the right. And why is that? It's because built into the immutable code is a piece that contains something called the new share rate. And every time a stake is ended, the new share rate calculation is done. And when the new share rate calculation is done, what it's seeking to do is to make sure you cannot get more T-shares than you already had for staking the same number of days, even if you stake all of your rewards and all of your principal. And so what it does is it slowly ratchets up that cost in terms of hex. Now, here's the thing about that. As it's going up in terms of hex, it goes about 20% a year. That could be going up faster as we move into the future. Don't know. But we'll see. But right now, we've been able to observe about 20% a year that it goes up. But here's the thing: is we're also going into a period of time where the cost of hex may be going up, and so the effective cost of a T-share max during the last run-up was 10K. So it's very conceivable, in my mind, that we see a 10X from here. Wouldn't be too much, right? That'd be 10K, right? And that's only in the 25 cent region. And so if we were to get back to all-time high, now you're talking about a T-share for $20,000. Yeah, so I guess what I'm getting at is we have both mechanics at play, both the cost of a T-share in terms of hex going up, but also the cost in fiat, potentially at the same time. And then if crypto kind of rhymes the way it normally does with cycles, and there eventually is a pullback and we have another bear, it's likely the low on a bear will be higher than the last low. And so essentially T-shares only become deflationary. That ends up being the effect, and they become more expensive. But I think the biggest story here, Fast Abdul, is that when we go look out into the future, sure, we have 9,000 T-shares now and out in 2040, but we really haven't seen some sort of like increased rate of staking. We had our big event on the 2nd, well attended by people. They did Cuatro Cincos in return. Some of them received airdrops from different projects. I'm sure there's going to be more that'll come, that type of thing. But nevertheless, I mean, it really wasn't that many, right? It was a great effort, and I'm proud of the community for that. But it didn't take us like across the finish line, so to say.
So you said airdrops? Do I get airdrops?
Yeah, there's a couple little tokens.
Oh, really? Okay.
That went out,
nice.
and people had said, now we have this refined list, right? So other people in the community who might want to reward those who they appreciate for staking Cuatro Cinco may send them things. Hey, it's DeFi. Can't stop them. They can do it.
Sure.
But we're in this weird situation where I've showed you guys week over week, and we've talked about it on this channel quite a bit. We're just not seeing, the amount of T-shares that we would need to even keep the T-share count in 15 years up above 3 or 4 million. I mean, the estimate I have at the moment is maybe we'll be at 500,000 T-shares in 15 years. And I think people who aren't staking will figure it out later, but the people who are staking are the only ones that'll be getting the rewards. It's a very long game. It's only one part of the strategy, but it's lining up that those folks will get an awful lot of the share.
And how does that pan out on Ethereum with the only people staking get their rewards, and there's less staking on Ethereum? So in theory, could there be more rewards?
Yes. In fact, the current APR is about a 5 or 6% difference. You're actually getting more rewards over there. And we're going to have to wait for the model to play out a little bit further. So many of the stakes. So what's happening on the Ethereum side because of gas is not only are people not staking as much, they're staking a little bit more long term than on PX, but they're also unable to end their stakes. All right, now that's going to play into this because people aren't ending their stakes. And I don't have all the data to really model this out, but they're not ending their stakes. Because they're not ending their stakes, there isn't as much new hex printed, so the inflation rate goes down. All right. The inflation rate goes down because we don't have this new hex. But because we don't have this new hex, the payouts won't go up as fast. Now, they might go up fast per T-share, but they're not going to go up as fast as they could because all those T-shares will remain in the pool. and they'll be sitting out there in the pool because nobody wants to spend the money to end them or good account them. And that may create some sort of a weird kind of a cycle that we'll have to envision, where maybe during the next bear, suddenly there'll be a month long of good accountings going on, where either people are good accounting or ending their own stakes, or other people are coming in and good accounting because gas is cheap enough to do so, and it makes more sense to do it. But the gas really is going to fudge it up, quite a bit. So we're gonna see not only we seeing this demographic shift to larger wallets doing staking for longer times, but we're also going to be seeing more and more abandoned stakes and some sort of weird divergence in the amount of payouts. But the thing
What
is
happens with that?
we
Like
won't
those
see
stakes,
it for a while.
like if the stakes, like if the stakes are, let's say, a large percentage, like 30 to 50% of the stakes are allowed to bleed out. What happens to the ecosystem?
Right.
Like to the people who do stake and end stake on time, do they benefit from that? Does it hurt them? Like, is it a positive or a negative for those who do participate properly?
I don't think we have enough information, but because I'm not, the biggest thing that happens when those stakes get stuck like that is that there's two big things. One, like I mentioned, there's no minting. If there's no minting, then we lose the additional payout in terms of inflation, right? So you have that piece going on, and then on top of that, they take up a part of the pool. So rather than having been pulled from the pool and payouts going up, they don't go up as fast. So the question is that does that affect? Is that more or less of what happens when people who are actually ending end and don't restake? Now, the ones who can end predominantly are the very big stakes,
Right, because it
and
makes sense.
so it may just be that the the growth in payout won't. This is my guess. The growth in payout won't be as great as it could have been on the EHEX side.
Fair enough. Now, of course, we could see future developments. Who knows? That might also solve this problem. We do have the Maximus DAO tokens that I kind of feel like just solved the problem. Like, I'm not even quite sure why we're, like you have these entities that make giant stakes with where you're not paying to unstake it. I don't know. I find that very attractive.
Yeah, I think that's too. But I don't. Of course, that's not going to change the situation with native stakes. But yeah, but it could change how things go forward in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, people who staked, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, they didn't have a choice in the matter, so to speak. So yeah, if you had $10 worth of hex staked for 15 years, that might not look good.
Very good. Let's see here.
Yeah.
Oh, Yaveen saying, Yaveen was talking about the liquidity projects, but I don't know that we have much. Maybe you have something to answer on this as far as counterpoint.
Or negative having this liquidity project. Okay, so I think she's talking about the stable coin for PDI. The positive could be that it adds well, certainly it would give some people something to do with their PDI apart from selling it, which is currently the main thing that's done with it. So they had a place to put it, a place to effectively stake it, where they could collateralize it into a stable coin. It may also provide a better liquidity structure for PDI. I honestly don't think there's any chance whatsoever there'll be a moonshot to $1 by Christmas. And something like this could give it like shelves to sit on, where it's like, there can be the stable coin that's created, which can be used, can be paired against other stable coins, and you might end up with some more structure to the chart, and probably a more diversified holder pattern than you see right now with like mega whales and a bunch of little guys. So hopefully we'd have some more medium-sized players with something like that. It may draw in people to participate with a stable coin that is $1, where that wouldn't participate in a the future stablecoin that PDI has been presented as. So it might bring in a different audience. So there's something there. Might give some people a cash out option, which is fine too, right? Like maybe they take that stablecoin and they sell it, and that's their way out the door. I'm sure there'll be some takers on that offer as well. So it is an experiment. So what could go wrong? Maybe like liquidity forks work awesome. And we can see that with liquid loans and earn and flex, like they're all pretty close to $1 pretty much all the time. And that's great. And on Ethereum too, and a bunch of other chains, there's been at least 37 liquidity forks that I know of. So it is the most forked stablecoin protocol for a very good reason. But like if PDI goes to 0, I don't think it'll work anymore. So that would be a problem. So like, because everything is kind of tied together on that one token with what we're proposing. PDI isn't the perfect collateral compared to some things. Like I think Pulse is a better collateral for a stablecoin than PDI, just because there's more volume. The price is more stable, and it's just has generally more backing. Now, if those numbers change, the math on that could change. But I think there is a reason that Liquid Loans did it for Pulse first, and then Power City did it for Pulsex next, and then they did it for Hex next. And that was pretty much the order on this chain of like, what are the best things to build a stablecoin on top of? There's an argument that after Hex, that maybe with the current numbers, maybe PDI could be a competitive fourth place for the best thing to build a stablecoin on top of. But these numbers can all change in a day, especially with something that's pretty volatile. I do think a protocol like this has the potential to pay a lot of fees to the users who participate with it. And that's the part I'm most interested in. That's what the tech does. And that's why a lot of us are here, is to make money with DeFi protocols. And this is a very serious DeFi protocol with no admin keys that's totally immutable. This kind of thing that RH used to talk about all the time. So I think, it's something that we might take a closer look at. And, if our testnet works out, maybe we'll launch. No promises.
Very good. And we're going to avoid the SEC comments in the chat until maybe Maddie comes back. Maybe he has something to say about that. Sure. They firsthand knowledge about that. All right. And so Flat Out Rich is asking a follow-up question about EHEX and if it's worth 1 million EHEX Quattro Cinco. It's like 78 t-shirts in EHEX. It's a personal decision. I mean, certainly there are a lot of people who think that it's worth it. But they're staking. So, I mean, we're getting the stakes out there, so we know that. Believe in yourself. He's here for the tech and cigars.
You're here for the cigars.
True Blues here. True Blues here for the dip, the blue cheese dip.
It was a nice dip today. I really like the dip, actually.
Oh, I have. We should probably talk about that PSA was. I know people probably are sick of hearing it, but dips are in the game.
Yep.
Right. So I know that. I heard that. I didn't listen to it, and I didn't believe it. And then dips came, and I got really upset. But then after experiencing enough of them, I realized dips were in the game. That's what they meant. And so, yeah, guys, listen, I don't know. Maybe it's the end of the world. Maybe it's not. But dips are in the game. So what does a dip mean? For me, seeing a 50, 60% drop in USD prices, I mean, I like it, but I don't sit and worry about it. I have more conviction about the long term than that. And I know that sounds, I don't know how that sounds to other people, but I'm just saying that you get used to it. I mean, that is crypto. That's what they meant. Back in kindergarten when they said, now, little fast Abdul, remember, dips are in the game. You knew. We knew then.
That was the game. They told us the rules.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's just the same thing, like we see it over and over again. Of course, I feel for people, however they've lost their crypto value. But it was a real comment too. Don't put more in than you could afford to lose. It's crypto, that's for sure. Yeah. I mean, this is one of the riskiest and most rewarding sectors there are right now. You know,
Oh,
so
yeah.
the R&R is high.
I believe a wise man once said that dips are the price we pay for the world's fastest growing financial asset,
Yeah,
or something like that.
I think I heard something like that once or
Yeah,
twice.
yeah.
Once or twice. I want to say what
I
else
think
have we got?
today feels pretty temporary to me. Like, I saw the dips and then I went and looked and I'm like, okay, Bitcoin's still $105,000. Yeah, Ethereum dropped down from 41 to 38.50. Probably the sky's not falling. Not financial advice, but it's like my feeling. My cab driver told me it's going to be okay.
Yeah, yeah. Tim Crane. I'm kind of going through the list here of questions and comments.
Yeah.
Tim was asking, what do we think about the Haktui girl
All right.
and the
That's
rug?
good.
I have no personal knowledge of any of that, so I don't know.
Well, she launched a token
Did
on
she launch it, or did somebody launch it?
well, I'm sure there was some people who launched a token with her. Like she had coaching or assistance, and then on Solana where these things usually go, and it was a meme coin, of course, and it was like an hour, 2 hours into the launch or something, they like rugged it for like a silly amount of money, extremely fast. So it was just embarrassing, right? Like how fast it was. Like the end of her fame cycle was like, rugging for like $10 million, right? Like, it was just so obvious and so, like you almost could have predicted it, like as like in the script. But yeah, she had some VCs that sponsored her, and then I don't know if she did it, if the VCs did it, like who rugged the token, but like yeah, it was pretty rugged. So
Whoever had
that
the
was kind of sad.
liquidity up pulled it. Is that what
Yeah,
happened?
yeah, yep. And like I think rugged is relevant. Like I'm not sure if it went all the way to zero, and if they pulled all the liquidity exactly, but it was like they took in huge unnecessary profits in the first 2 hours, and made it hard for it to grow after. So I think it was it was telling of why meme coins are not always the play. It's been very popular this cycle to invest everything in meme coins, but maybe there's reasons to invest in things that are a little more solid. Yeah, Maddie's in the back. Press the like button.
Well,
You got
I think we're waiting for 1,000 viewers, right?
Oh, okay.
Before he comes back. You know, he announced out loud to everyone that he was moving to Texas.
Hmm.
So I don't know if he's replaying a scene from, Chainsaw Massacre, or whether he's doing road trip, but he's somewhere between there and here and there, wherever there is. So we don't know Maddie. We don't know where he is.
Haven't seen
All
him.
right.
Yeah.
Uh, True Blue. Hey, congratulations if you staked 20 million for 2,880 days last week. Congratulations. And then jokingly, Hex is such a scam. Yeah, it is crazy. People continue to do staking, and so at least there's some people that don't think it's scammy. You know.
I bet you some people wish they'd stake some Hex instead of buying the Hawktua token, whatever it might be.
Tui. All right, here's a good one. Fox Mulder says, "Does anybody else think that Fast Abdul is scammy?" Wow, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not, buddy. Thank you. Thank you for your concern. Stay vigilant, though. Stay vigilant. Don't trust anyone.
I think it's a bribe to the community, right?
Yeah, I think Fox is looking for a bribe, actually.
He
We'll
may, he
talk.
may.
We'll talk.
Mark F. Mark F. Evening, boys. Well, I guess I can take that. For others, LPing, is there a tracking software that uses compatible with Pulsechain? Token Tax is struggling to recognize PLS transactions. I've heard good things about Coinly. I don't know anything else. I don't know what else tracks quote unquote LPing. And I don't think you mean LARPing. I think you mean liquidity providing. I don't know about you. I do know that a lot of the data is available, and there's some ways to pull the data out. But yeah, it gets to be pretty complicated, doesn't it, for doing that type of tracking? Boo, boo. I see Ram out there. Sandy Beach, good to see you. Yeah, he does look sharp. You know, I went and bought a brand new suit this week, waiting for it to be delivered.
Well, you did nice. What
Yeah,
color?
yeah. It's going to be charcoal black.
Nice. It's a good choice.
And Fox says he's just kidding. He's here for the tech too.
Of course.
He's here for the tech. It's True Blue. Yeah. We're doing cosplay in the back. You know, a little bit of, a little bit of bondage, light stuff. He'll be back.
Consenting adults. Yeah.
Yeah, consenting adults. We can do. Yeah, it's for Maddie's OnlyFans for later. What else we got? We got La Sizzle here. Who believes the hardest? All right. Incognito and Fire tokens were airdropped to me. Doji. Yeah, the two separate things. I think the Hexfire stuff was sent out to the Quattro Cinco list. But if you do anything with Ink LP in the pools, I think you received the Incognito. I'm not really up on that project, other than it isn't both an airdrop and available for purchase token. That's a reward token. Do you have much more on the Incognito, or have they been able to remain?
I think if it's the one I'm thinking of, and I'm not even sure it is, like if it might have been like a tax token that pays you in ink, maybe.
Yeah, I do.
But I'm not sure if it's connected to the.
I think it actually pays in. I think it pays in LP. I'm not sure. Does somebody know? Drop it in the chat. What it pays in. I think.
Quick note on airdrops though. Like, I think people like now that we're getting to the top of the into the bull. Like, there's going to be more scams, and one of the ways that scammers will attack you is by sending you an airdrop of a token and then somehow directing you somewhere else where you connect your wallet to something you shouldn't. So be very cautious with sudden wealth of airdrops you find in your wallet, right? That's it's going to be, as the pulse chain gets bigger, we're going to see more of that. So like, okay, you did a 555 stake, you got some fire tokens, it's probably safe. Check contract codes, make sure it's 100%. What it's supposed to be. Anything that has the name of a website in the token description is often a scam. Most legit tokens don't have a website name in the token description, like on DexScreener or in your wallet, typically. But like, yeah, look at the token on DexScreener. Does it actually have liquidity? Most things, if you can sell it, like on the Dex, it's usually okay. But like, you can also just not touch it, and that is a valid choice. Like, if you're like, I don't know what this is, I don't know how it got here. It can't hurt you if you don't touch it. If you don't move it, you can hide it in your wallet so you can't see it. There's a button for that.
Well, yeah, you should dig into that a little bit further too, right? And what we're getting at, guys, there are some tokens. Sure, you should be notified in the transaction if you get it about what it's doing, but you may miss it. But some of these tokens could be programmed to do certain things, and so it's always good to do the research first. It's not worth it. I mean, a lot of people get kind of OCD about their wallets. They want to clean it out, and so they're like, I got to move this out of here. I got to get this out of here. Yeah,
there can even be like a transfer tax attached to a token if you're trying to move it out of your wallet, right?
That's so big that it actually takes pulse out of your wallet if you're not paying attention.
Yeah, and like, it's not the same as like a total, like I don't think there's any way they could drain your wallet by you transferring a token out, but there could be a tax that you pay. It could still cost you, whereas you can just hide it. I think MetaMask and Rabby both have that functionality of make this disappear, because over the years, like, you could be airdropped thousands of random tokens. As crypto explodes into the mainstream, I'm sure all our wallets will get a lot of traffic that we didn't ask for. And that is probably the safest choice. It's just don't touch it if you don't know what it is. And if you're a top 10% user and you're able to do the research and you can confirm this is safe and I can do this with it, then great. And if some fantastic founder sends you free tokens, well then say thank you. That's great too.
Woohoo! Right? Yeah, it's crypto's a funny place, right? God bless you.
Thank you. I've been sick. I had the flu for the past 3 days. It's been terrible.
Well, you look pretty good for that.
I've been slow Abdul, Crispy. Slow Abdul.
Slow. I'm always slow, Crispy. All right. Flat Out Rich is asking a question or making a statement, basically summing up that getting Hex today is like getting Bitcoin in the early days, and thinking that a Quattro Cinco stake or restake is the move once the ladder is in place. I couldn't agree with you 100% more. I agree with you 110%, if that's even possible. Fast Abdul's coming back dressed as a drone. Right. So Tim Crane's asking, what do you think about the nuclear sniffing drones? Hey, you know what, Tim? That's probably one of the most plausible explanations I've heard yet, based on the news reports that have come out. Don't know. I was kind of hoping it was aliens, but you know.
The aliens would be great. Chinese drones, not as great.
All right, Hex Apple and the Sizzle talking about becoming quad fathers. I think that's what happens after you get your hex and your com and you fuse it together, and you end up with a quadrillion of them. All right, let's see. Doji is saying, let's see, hex can be an entire branch. Yes, it could. It could be an entire branch of mathematics. That's for sure. It certainly could fill some papers, right? Probably should get Lamont Black back in here and talk to us a little bit about what his observations are from afar about what's happened over the last few years. It's been a couple of years since I spoke to him and had him on
He's
stream.
an interesting character.
Yeah,
He seems to understand things.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool. You know, yeah, because it's hard. You know, it's hard for when people want to be critical, it's hard for them to understand the whole hex system and how it works. There's lots of questions, but a lot of people don't question coin go up. You know.
Nope.
Yeah. All right. I have to get this right. Is this Pakiki? Is that how you pronounce that, Pakiki? Cope has driven Abdul insane. Crypto is wild. Yeah. The hype is there. I see conspiracy crypto out there. Veen. Wow. Tam's just coming in here with all these things, these nice things. Said to say, Pastor Duel, so smart and fancy. And I see Johnny saying, the plane, boss, the plane. Nobody else will get that because they're all too young.
I get it.
It's my fantasy island.
Thanks, Johnny.
Right. Johnny. All right.
Am I the midget or are you the midget in this scenario?
I don't know. I could be the midget. I think I'd be, mini me. I'll be a mini me. Tam saying, Crispy, I love the way you talk hexy to me or hex to me. Yeah. Not very many women say that. That's for sure.
We have more women in this chat than most crypto projects altogether, I imagine. Between Sandy and Tam, that is.
Stressful struggle, sometimes we have to mix it up with new partners, The new partners. It's okay. I like Fast Abdul a lot. All right. 7-layer dip. What else we got here? Anything else we can do? Oh, yeah. Christmas profits. Are they coming? Let's pump the flags. Yeah. Well, maybe you got your Christmas profits already. I don't know. Some people are thinking about, that there may be a Santa rally here. It's quite possible.
Could be.
Well,
people are happy and drinking. They tend to buy crypto. I've noticed that in the past.
That's it. Far Out Aliens, one of our favorite people in chat. Profits will be taken. Dips will be bought. Yes, they will. People who understand what's happening. That's how they see this, right? That's how they see this. A lot of activity end of the year. My friend Axis Alive says that in a bull market, all dips are meant to be bought. Right? It is, maybe it's not true for everything, but in general, it's the case, right? Market's going up and to the right. If you have an opportunity to get something at a better ratio and you're doing that kind of trading, it's good. My personal thing is I'm looking at the hex prices, right? I'm trying to figure out how to get more hex. RK, we talked a little bit about incognito. Neither of us really knows much about it other than it showed up in my wallet.
Yeah, mine too.
And that's Sarah saying, hey, I hope Trump gets rid of capital gains tax. Prayers. I hope so too.
Yeah, no tax would be nice. I hear there's no tax in Somalia and you can be a pirate too.
Nice. Yeah. Who didn't dream of being a pirate, right?
Girls
Let's see,
probably.
Tony. I think Tony's saying he'd buy insurance from you. There you go.
Nice.
Yeah, that's good. It's not bad. Oh, zigzag. That's pretty good, man. $200 a day from Hextech. So you're chill with Hextech. Yeah, that's a good point. That wasn't what it was not too long ago. So, um, today, one T-share. So I'm paying like something like 7.2 hex per T-share. And hex is 2.5 cents. Just say, I know it's probably down a little bit. So per T-share, there's about 18 cents. So if somebody had 100 of these T-shares, right, you're getting paid about $18 a day, right, something like that. And at 365 days a year, that's around $6,500, right? And so at first we're like, oh yeah, it's not that much. I mean, maybe it's a lot for a lot of people. I mean, it's certainly pretty cool. I mean, I could pay. For the most part, I could pay at least one of my bills, right? I'm thinking I was going to say car payment, but car payments average around 700 now in the U.S. But it's close to being able to pay, a car payment for the whole year. So that's pretty good. But the real magic happens when price goes up 10 or 15x, right?
Oh yeah.
And all of a sudden, instead of it being 6,500, we'll just do a 15x. Now all of a sudden that's $100,000 a year, and until you experience that type of stuff and actually see that happen, um, it's hard to imagine. And then people kind of lose their minds when it gets that high. They're like, "Oh my God, look at this! I'm making $100,000 a year." But again, it's not. It's paper money. Paper, not real till it's real, right? So. But yeah, it is pretty amazing. Zigzag. The big game has always been. We lost Fast Abdul. He disappeared on us. Houdini. Oh, he's back now. He has a beard.
Yeah.
Um, the, the thing about this is with crypto in general, it's always about units. How do you get the units? How do you get the units so that later when the appreciation comes, you'll get an overperformance on your on your bags, right? Oh, let's see. And you're
That's
getting
close to $1. Like, imagine what the yield people would be getting would be. It'd be ridiculous.
no, it'd be crazy. Yeah, because even one T-shirt is $7 a day, and at that point, I don't know who used the word venal. Was that you or somebody else in the chat?
No, that
No,
was Fox. Fox used the word venal, so he gets
yeah,
10 extra points
you,
for
you know,
vocabulary.
yeah, I see that Fox used that. I got to tell you, if you use that in a sentence, I might nod and smile, but I don't know what venal means. So
That's definitely.
I got to go look it up. Um, if you said anal, I'd know what that meant, but I didn't. I don't know what venal is. Right?
It could have more than one meaning.
Stressful struggle is saying you do look like a scammer and it's funny. Yeah, Yaveen, we could talk about different ladders for Hex. You see, guys, I have no other love but for Hex. So that's all I do is talk about Hex. Yaveen knows. Yaveen knows. Um, yeah, for those who haven't done the hex laddering and whatnot, I've kind of modified my approach and my thinking. I think for new people right now, I definitely think that putting a ladder in place, kind of like Dream account style from Kareem, makes sense, where you start out at 15 years and walk back. But I would strongly consider only going back to, at this point, back to about year 4 or 5. And the reason for that is we are in what I think is an upcycle. And I'd never tell someone don't buy hex and stake it, because I think if you hold it long enough, and right now price is relatively low. I mean, even at 2.5 cents, they're relatively low. But there may be some other opportunities in some larger dips after this run up. But yeah, I mean, that would be an approach to come all the way back to year 4 or 5. You could do a full ladder. And then once your ladder's in place, the idea is to always be trying to make the next Quattro Cinco. That's a style as well. Again, it's all individualized. It's DeFi. You get to choose. I mean, nobody's going to tell you what to do. There's no, no specific way of doing it. And I do know there are a lot of people who prefer yearly stakes. This way they're only chasing one thing. I have heard, it's not my style, but I've heard about people wanting to do only one every 4 years. But that didn't work for me because I'm not sure what the cycles will actually look like. And so I'd rather have liquidity of Hex every year. And then, of course, there are folks who fall all the way back to quarterly and monthly stakes. And then, and I think it's a balancing act. We want to make sure we have enough hex in there so they're not really tiny stakes. Though the gas hasn't been too bad. I had a few stakes and that were like 15,000 hex stakes on Ethereum side, and this kind of translates to what happens over on Pulsechain. I did have to wait a couple weeks to end them, but I was able to finally end one. It wasn't much of a profit because it was like an $85 end stake, but a few weeks before that it was $600. So that was a no-go. And it kind of goes back to our conversation earlier, Fast,
Yep.
about the stakes.
So
But
what
yeah,
about like with the does it make more sense to do longer stakes or to do shorter stakes and then compound them? What does the math favor?
well, thank you for that volleyball. I'm pretty sure that as I do, that doing end-to-end stakes is not as durable as doing a long stake. Um, However, you can only go out 15 years. So when we start talking about getting to that point, you know, you might be forced to do, if you're trying to get some short-term gains, do some sort of rolling stake to generate more hex, to put more hex out at Quattro Cinco. Again, that's a strategy that one was penned by Axis. I'm sure other people have done it. Where they've talked about doing that. Um, here's a good question for formative stuff. Oh, look, camels.
Yeah,
I
do
see.
some camels.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, stressful struggle. You missed $5 a hex. It already came and left. We have to catch it next cycle. It's coming. It's coming. Fox Smolder. So incognito. Yeah, incognito. I don't know that. So I don't have all the details, but I don't know that I agree that the contract has exploits. But I'll tell you why. Um, as compared to contracts that we have that are immutable, yes, reward tokens in general are not immutable, right? They're specifically written with functions that allow you to change who the recipients are. Many times I've seen with some of these that I've reviewed, they have blacklist capabilities, whitelist capabilities. You can change the tokens that are getting bought. You can change the tokens that are getting burned. Now, you may not like that, and that could be a concern for you because you might not want to be into that token. But I don't know if I would classify it specifically as an exploit or necessarily a scam because it does all these things. And this is why when we tell you about, well, we don't really talk about these types of tokens here, but when people are talking about it, we kind of tell people do your own research and go look at the contracts, because what you'll find is many of those contracts have those types of features built in. Now, I suppose they can be made immutable by renouncing ownership.
Perhaps, yeah. But it depends. Like some things need to have admin functions, right?
Yeah.
Like my protocol 2Fox has it has admin function, and it has to, right? Because if things change inside the protocol, right? Like Pulsechain, will have admin functions. It will have admin keys so that they can add farms, right? That's part of some protocols. When you're just talking about a token that's like a tax token or something, maybe it's a little bit different, but depending on the complexity of what it's supposed to do, it might require human intervention at some point and therefore require some sort of admin function that requires, and then you want that function to have keys if you don't want anybody to be able to do it. I just did some quick reading on the incognito token here, and USCG Vet says that it doesn't have admin keys, but it does have a DAO function, and the DAO votes are likely controlled mostly by the origin address. So it's kind of like admin keys light. Now, what those admin keys do, I have no idea. And yeah, maybe we can just leave that one to the masses because it's not core to our subject.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't have a lot of information about it, but it's coming up in the chat a lot here. I mean, I received some. I just haven't done anything with it. But I haven't. But I've received a lot of reward tokens. So
All right.
again, I don't interact with them.
Yep.
I
Same
didn't get
here.
I didn't get redye though. I don't know what that's all about, but um, and I didn't get die re either. But that should be a token, right? Let's
It could
see.
be.
Oh, stressful struggle. I agree with you 100% on this, bud. A lot of people freaking out today. Like it kind of didn't bother me what was happening. We already talked about the dip and what was happening with that. But yeah, my reaction was to go bargain hunting and to see if there was something I wanted to adjust. I noticed some people took advantage of swapping. And you know that I'm more like a staker guy because I'm always talking about staking hex, but I did to see that some people took advantage of swapping for PDI from hex from PHEX today. And you may remember when PDI was at the top, maybe those same people took advantage of that top and swapped from PDI into hex. So there are definitely people that continue to do ratio trading, and that will continue. All right. Let's see what else we got. I might be getting to the end of the comments and questions over here. Let's see.
All right, Money Gang in the house. Hey, Money Gang.
Oh, you must be down the list. I'm way up here looking at this. Yeah. Yeah, I see. I don't know. I didn't know that they actually had a sacrifice for incognito. Didn't hear about it. See what else we got. All right, guys. You have other topics put in there. What else is coming up in your mind, Fast Abdul? What would you want to talk about?
Okay, well, let's talk. I got there's a new stable pool that is relevant to core tokens. So Power City just made a new stable pool. It's called the Stable Power Pool, and it's their Hex DC token paired with their PXDC token paired with DAI from Ethereum. So the reason it's relevant is that those are the tokens mintable with their Liquidity forks. So their Earn Liquidity fork, where you insert Pulsechain to mint a stable coin, and their Flex Liquidity fork, where you insert Hex to mint a stable coin. And I have reason to believe that this pool will probably pay fairly well as far as liquidity farming goes. We'll have to see how that goes. It hasn't; those numbers aren't yet up yet. They will start to come up tomorrow night. But I think that's an interesting thing. If it works and people want to get in to that pool and they start using those protocols to mint more tokens, that's going to lock up a lot of Hex and a lot of Pulsechain. So I'm curious to see if that's a big move for them. I can tell that the pool is going to be very incentivized, but yeah, how many people are going to mint those tokens and lock up their Hex and their Pulsechain, or leverage their Hex and Pulsechain in a way to do that? That remains to be seen. What do you think of that? Good thing, bad thing, neutral.
Well, I shared a little bit with you. I'm pretty aware of both. Both the PXDC, the HexDC, and also Coast. I mean, all for different reasons. They all represent projects that have come on board recently that are getting adoption in different ways. Of course, Coast is onboarding, right? And but all three of them have a very similar type of issue that they're dealing with, which is they have these stables, and if you're talking about very small dollars, it doesn't move the needle very much, in terms of the LP. You have a lot of slippage, but you got to think we have people that want to bring six figures over, maybe more, at a time, through Coast, or you're playing the. Again, I don't recommend it, but I know people are playing the game of Hex DC and Power City. And so when they're playing those games, what they're looking to do is to be able to do the swaps in and out very quickly, because they might be working off a 5-minute chart. So anybody who's not familiar with this, there's this theory. This is definitely trading. I see Maddie's there, so we can bring them in. This is definitely trading, but there's this theory that you can borrow on your asset, right, to get value, and preferably you do that at a top, even if it's a local top, so you get the most value for it, and you hold those stables until you get to a bottom, where you can get the most bang for your buck for the asset that you want to buy, and then you wash, rinse, repeat. It's very much trading, right? But what
Yeah.
that leads to, particularly if someone's successful at it, is a bigger and bigger and bigger ball that they're trying to roll, and all of a sudden it's not $500 or $1,000 that's being transacted. It's 10,000 or 20,000, and the if the liquidity isn't thick enough, you end up with massive slippage, which then takes away from the idea of doing it at all. Right?
Totally. Yeah. And stablecoins need huge liquidity. That's part of what makes them work. But like being with these ones, underlying assets being Pulsechain and Hex, there's definitely that could be a good ball to roll if you knew what you're doing. But like, yeah, DYOR, this stuff is not necessarily user friendly. You have to read the white paper. You have to figure out how it works. Don't FOMO in.
Well, welcome back, boss.
Yeah, Maddie. They let you out of the back, eh?
Cowboy Maddie.
Oh man, I just packed up all my belongings, and I'm hitting the road for Austin, Texas.
Woohoo.
Austin. All right.
Making the big move, and I just got the DeLorean hooked up to the U-Haul, so I've got the 27-foot U-Haul plus the DeLorean, ready to roll.
Nice.
All right. Well, are you in a position to talk to us about the topic of BankX? Because I didn't really have a whole lot of information, and neither did Fast Abdul.
Yeah, it was just it was really good game theory that somebody suggested to me that I didn't think of at first, which is everybody's been wallet watching, and they've been thinking to themselves, maybe BankX is out, maybe they're getting out because they've been selling all their EHEX, and of course that would be great news, but it never occurred to me that like maybe they could be buying in other wallets just to give the appearance that they're out. And this kind of, I'm not saying whether that is or isn't the case, but we had a day this past week where they had sold some large percentage, like 200 million EHEX, and the price had actually gone up. And so that could have been, that there were buyers in the market, or it could have been like, just a sleight of hand, basically. And of course, that's something that we can't particularly know. If there were wallets, maybe somebody could track that. But but just at like the surface level, broadcaster level, it's particularly interesting that we can have a narrative that they're out, and yet maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But at the end of the day, like all of our logic still applies that like, it doesn't matter, and like, this and that. But this has been like a particularly interesting period for EHEX where, there has been kind of, one or more things holding it back for maybe 9 months or a year. And so I don't know what you guys think about that conspiracy theory.
Not sure it's conspiracy or if it's just subject to interpretation.
Well,
yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
it definitely blew my mind, like just the game theory of like, oh, we can see these transactions of them exiting, but are they really gone? And I was like, wow, okay, well, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Doesn't really change my behavior at all, but it's just something interesting to comment on that, like, wasn't necessarily being presented along with the commentary of they sold. It's like, us really knowing whether they're out or not.
Yeah, when they are out, I wonder if it's is it a sell the news event, Crispy, or is it a pump to the moon event? What do you think?
I don't know. I think the specter of BankX has been getting lower or smaller as we go, right? And so I just think it's Hex Monkey's talking about it being a nothing burger. It's kind of like that now at this point. Now, of course, any of us individually, maybe we're like, you don't have the cash or the value to go purchase 200 million off the market. But in the grand scheme of things, we're obviously eating it up. So,
Yep. Yeah, no, I think it's a very attractive concept that you don't have that dump-a-mental over top of you. So yeah, I find it quite tempting. The math on it, like how depressed the price is enticing. You know,
yeah.
Just my viewpoint, not financial advice. But yeah, you can see that there's maybe room to grow there.
Yeah, I think it's pretty exciting that the number one dumper is out supposedly, and of course it's hard to know whether Richard will say good or bad things about it, but it seems like the market's kind of moved on from at least his past comments.
Well, I'm not. I don't have a very popular opinion about all this stuff when it comes to the EX PX. I think it's great if they both have great value, and I'm happy with that, and I think the dynamics are there for there to be great value. But just simply stated, it takes a lot more economic energy for me to transact on Ethereum. And so whether I like EX over there or not, it's just more expensive. And so I think that will have long-term ramifications, and whether people want to accept that or not. But.
I think there's some speculation, and rightfully so too, about if the OA account or some other entity is to pump a core asset, is it likely to be EHEX or is it more likely to be PHEX? And it seems like it's more likely to be PHEX to me. So I think, in the long term, like that definitely would go into my decision making.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're right. I mean, I agree with that. I think it's very unlikely that we're going to see a core pump of EHEX. Now, that doesn't mean that the community won't do it. They have, and they will.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's suppressed enough that the community can, right? Like
and
it doesn't take it nearly as much. But.
Yeah, the liquidity is such they could do it, right? We could do it. It's really us we're talking about as a community.
The three of us here would do it, yeah.
Yeah, certainly it can go way up. And go ahead, Maddie.
It'll be curious to see if any of the liquidity returns, because it seems like ever since BankX had the intentions to dump, the liquidity had been much lower on EHEX, which of course makes it more attractive to have higher price volatility. And it's of particular interest that we've talked on this show about the kind of the whole game theory of mostly the P copies having more volatility than their original counterpart on Ethereum. So for example, P Pepe has lower liquidity, or P Elon has lower liquidity than on the Ethereum chain. And so that was something that Richard had always speculated, maybe people will be interested in that the prices move together, but that they go up and down more on Pulsechain. And it's interesting to me that because PHEX is already more valuable than EHEX, or maybe coincidentally to the fact you've got kind of the opposite playing out here, where you expect to see more volatility in the Ethereum copy because of the lower liquidity. And so it's up to the market makers to decide whether that'll stay that way or not.
Indeed. Maybe Alex from Hedron's got something up his sleeve. Like if you could solve the Ethereum gas cost staking problem and actually have it not be a problem, I think that that would be the path to parity. I can't see anything else actually. Like it's cool what Maximus DAO is doing. Obviously it solves a problem on a more of an industrial level. But if an individual could stake 10,000 hex, 100,000 hex on Ethereum via the Pulsechain somehow and pay Pulsechain like sized fees, then parity could be on the horizon. But like you need something like that. And I think
I mean,
a couple ideas of how you could do it.
Yeah, like Dipcatcher actually proposed some ideas off the top of his head at the Hex 5th birthday stream. Yeah. And I wasn't aware until he had said that actually the bridge that's being used for Pulsechain has the capability, he was saying, to communicate more than just tokens. Like it can communicate information as well.
Yeah, I wonder, could it send a message, stake this hex on Ethereum? But it seems like there would have to be more. But we'll have to get the devs on that one.
Right.
Can the dev do something?
Yeah, that's why I said to you, can't the devs do something?
Indeed. That guy died, eh? You hear that? Can't the devs do something? Can't the devs do something? Guy died. I can't remember what his name was, but Somi did a thing. He was like a character. Apparently, I just knew him from the meme and nothing else. But apparently, he was a character. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So you got a good question in here in the chat for Maddie or anybody else, right? Any thoughts on the underperformance of Ethereum? Underperformance of Ethereum recently.
That's a great question. I think like the new money is getting pulled in lots of different directions. You've got Bitcoin performing stronger than ever because of like Michael Saylor buying billions of dollars using like convertible bonds, like a hyperloop type of thing, basically with the stock market. And so that's particularly interesting and new this cycle, that seems to be showing strong dominance, with Bitcoin against Ethereum. And then also you've got basically Phantom Wallet making it so easy for people to use Solana. I think you've got a lot of retail money that would normally find its way into ETH, like it's finding its way into Solana, at least so far. But I think I'm hopeful that the trend will reverse. I think Ethereum needs like more going for it, and maybe it'll be something catching on that we haven't seen yet. I know like people like Steph are launching on Ethereum, and if we know one, there's probably hundreds more of people. It seems like the new ideas keep going to Ethereum over other chains because that's where the most liquidity is for at least smart contracts and things that are more than a dumb rock like Bitcoin. So I think us going from 1K 2 or 2.5 years ago, now we're at 4K. I mean, that's not bad, but it's certainly not performing as well as Bitcoin, although that's what you would typically see until about now in the cycle. I've got to say, Ethereum holders, they're getting pretty nervous, because it's a little bit overdue to be at a new all-time high. We're not even at a new all-time high yet.
Is it Ethereum underperforming though, or is it Bitcoin overperforming?
I mean, I would say both, depending on your framing, but certainly Ethereum is overperforming the stock market.
There we go.
Yeah, I see. I guess maybe I don't know enough about the data. I don't feel like Ethereum's underperforming at all. But I recognize that Bitcoin has gone up more than Ethereum has, right? So perhaps that's the simple answer, right? Is that what it is? That just simply that's the case.
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
Trying
What
to
you've got like a like quick math. Bitcoin bottomed to 15K. So like that's it's done like a 6x and some change, and then maybe a 7x, and then Ethereum is up a 4x. So that kind of puts it in perspective there, where normally at this point in the Bitcoin halving year, Ethereum is supposed to start doing something, like the meme with the stick, like poking it, like do something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just had an interesting idea that I'm mostly stealing from Johnny Chaos from the chat. He says two things solve the gas issue: ETH rolling back their S-slowed hikes. Don't really know what that means, but I assume it's a tech thing. And the next bear market. What if you had staggered staking on Pulsechain and on Ethereum that coincided with the market? So if it was like a 4-year cycle, you try to time your hex stakes on Ethereum to end in the bear, and you try to time your hex stakes on Pulsechain to end in the bull. And you could balance that equilibrium of like cheap hex stake, like it's cheap to end it for $2, $5, $10 on Ethereum during the bear market, and then whatever, you pay $2 on Pulsechain and end it in the bull market. Do you think that would work, or do you need a crystal ball?
I don't know. Maybe a crystal ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's different methods. Like, one idea is for people to buy ETH today, along with their stake that comes out in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, right? And like, there's decent ways to estimate how much you'll need to end the stake, how much ETH you'll need. You don't know what price the ETH will be, but you at least know today. So that's one way to do it. I mean, people who are concerned, about the gas fees, like it's just completely unpredictable. But there are lots of alternatives and stuff, but it's really hard to know. Like there have been so many changes in the past 5 years to Ethereum, including the S-load function, which like makes it more expensive to write to disk, which is basically what Hex is doing.
Okay.
But I mean, during a bull market, people like paying more. The reason why ETH gas fees are so high is because people are finding value there.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
Yeah, I just went and took a look at the ETH chart just to refresh myself. So ETH did top in January of 18, and then January of 21 was when the all-time high was beat. So it's not quite January yet if we were to look for the same amount of time for this cycle. But we did see Ethereum almost get up to its all-time high back in March with that ETF, right? So perhaps that has changed the structure, and we're just now beginning to test those levels, right? Where where Ethereum hit that 4,100 level and it kind of rejected off that. So I guess we'll see what happens, Maddie, won't we?
What would happen to Ethereum anyway? Like if they could make gas prices low, like wouldn't the price of Ethereum go down because it was so cheap?
I don't know. Go ahead, Maddie. I feel like everybody's frozen. It might be me.
Yeah, my screen's frozen. I don't know what happened.
I don't know.
I still hear you though.
Why don't you get number one there behind you to unfreeze your screen?
Number one.
But we lost the Maddie. Yeah, so I just looking at the charts, man. I look at them every day, every other day. I don't see any, for what I consider to be high level macro. I don't see anything that tells me there's anything different going on than normal right now. Just kind of like trucking along. I want to see things to be, want to see things higher prices and all that. But, Just takes time. What scares me more is the potential for at least a interim top in April May timeframe. For Pulsechain, that because that means my time is limited here for getting all my strategies in place. But,
Well, the bear market doesn't come all at once, right? So like
yeah,
things
it
will
takes time. Yeah,
things will stretch out. There might be the altcoin top, but it doesn't mean it's going to be our altcoin top. And I certainly think with what I suspect Richard's plan is with the SAC funds, Pulse Chain could get a late pump. Seems possible.
maybe. I don't even subscribe to that myself. This idea that that's how funds will be used. I just kind of like think whatever happens will happen with the community. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I hear a lot of people hanging the future just on that.
True. Yeah.
That Sack Daddy's going to come pump it to the moon. But I think we have the capability of pumping ourselves. Well, maybe he does. Maybe it does. I don't know. Nobody's
It'd
really.
be a nice surprise. We shouldn't count on it. I agree with that. Like we shouldn't count on anybody to pump our bags. We should not expect profit from the work of others. I've heard it before.
I've heard that as well. Right. And I have no plan in front of me. Nobody's written anything down, sent it to me. I hear a lot of conjecture, but that's it. Oh man, those glasses really look good on you.
Oh, thank you. I have them in several colors.
Oh, is Maddie back?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
We can hear you now. Yeah. Can you hear us? Mate?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Yeah. So, so there was like this website, lookintorh.com, that Gerardo made. There was, it's tracking the SAC funds. And I agree with your guys' take on all that. And then Gerardo made another website this week called I miss rh.versal.app or whatever the website is. But it tracks how long it's been since Richard last live streamed. And I had to tell him, the counter was wrong because last time Richard live streamed was for like 3 hours during the Hex conference almost 2 years ago. And so we're up to, we're coming up on the, it's been like 711 days, something like that. And everybody's got their fingers crossed that Richard will pop up all of a sudden, maybe for this year's Hex conference that's coming up, January 6th through 9th. But
could happen.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. I think they're hoping for a Christmas pre-recorded message and that he shows up live at the Hex conference. If those two things happen, that'd be pretty freaking sweet. Especially the live at the Hex conference, obviously. But a little Christmas message from the boss. Yeah, I'll take that for starters.
Oh yeah. And I'm not counting on him showing up or anything for the conference, but that'd be really cool. And I know last year on the 4th day of the Hex conference, that's when Richard's lawyers showed their hand, released the letter, responding to the SEC and telling them that the SEC has it all wrong and everything. So that was a major event. Probably to me, that was one of the biggest events of this entire year was, having that certainty that the lawyers were coming out strong and having good arguments and that kind of stuff. And so we just found that out on January 9th. And so, this year I'm hoping for more good news or, just in general, I think the conference is always a big highlight. So I'll be putting out the invitations for people to speak. I had to basically move my businesses to Texas first. So I'm in the middle of doing that and then should get that out later this week. And yeah, looking forward to it. I've got some like really big names that I also want to invite from like outside our ecosystem. I've like cultivated a lot of relationships in the past year outside of Hex and Pulsechain, so I'm hoping to like cash in on some of those connections in the sense of you know, bringing the social capital to the live stream where, you know, we typically have 100 speakers from within our community, but in the past we've been growing in terms of like people outside the community. Last year we had a real estate investor who's like 100 millionaire that invested in Pulsechain who spoke, and this year I'm hoping to have like a whole series of influential people that we haven't heard from before as icing on the cake.
Nice. Do you have a major sponsor for the X conference yet, Maddie?
I technically needed to wait until I'm on Texas soil in order to make that happen so that I can escape the persecution of Illinois income tax. And so I've like purposefully held off on asking anyone to be a sponsor this year until like until a couple of days from now, basically.
Okay, listen up, founders. Opportunity knocking.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. And this year, Sticker Guy, he'll be unable to to run the backstage because he's in college and has a bunch of tests to prepare for. So we'll have Rachel Laub will be filling in, and she'll be the person basically helping me pull off the conference.
Nice. You might get a bunch of people that just don't want to leave the backstage though and come up front if you have her back there though. Could slow things down.
Yeah, it'll be a pleasure to have her you know, instructing people on getting their lighting right and getting everybody warmed up and ready to be live.
Nice. And how many speakers do you think you'll have this year in total?
We I would say in between 69 and 120 would be my guess.
69 is a good number.
I think the lowest year, except for the first year, so this will be the 5th year we're doing it. I think the lowest year we had, except for the first year, was like 69. But of course, last year we had 100, and then we set the world record for the most YouTubers live on one screen, like a week after the conference. But it was kind of part of that. We had 230 people join in on that. So it's yeah, it's definitely in high demand. It's like Ethereum block space, you know, like people really want to get their airtime because they know the whales and they know that like typically there's signs that Richard like what you know is watching the conference. So typically not everybody watches this channel every week, but typically there are lots of OGs that like specifically tune in just for the conferences because they get a sample of so many different speakers and channels, and it's such a good cross promotion and all that. So yeah, I'm pumped.
I agree. Well, looking forward to that.
Well, thanks for that.
Christmas in January.
People are looking forward to it. Well, we probably ran out of things to talk about almost, huh?
Oh, hey, I got a question for you guys.
Hit it.
What do you guys think of Sami's whole like perspective on selling 10% because there's a 10% chance like the bull market's over? What do you guys think about that philosophy?
Well, I think that any philosophy of moderation is not terrible. Like I watched that video where somebody talked about selling 10%, because there's a 10% chance the bull market could be over. And like in that video, he also said that like he couldn't stand to do it himself, right?
Right.
Maybe you
Right.
should.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know, like, because obviously he doesn't think the bull market's over, but there's a chance. So, well, like moderation is key in a lot of things. I think taking some profit at different times is not a terrible concept. I heard dollar cost say take 10% on every double. Now he's not talking about this phase of the bull market. I think he's talking about like the bull market where things are flying. But like, you know, like, yeah, hedge your bets, because most people, I've heard a lot this cycle in particular, people saying, well, I'm going to sell the top this year. But it's like, no, you're not, bro.
I'm selling the top. I'm selling the top.
Yeah, sure you are. Sure you are.
So, yeah.
So moderation is good. Do 5%. Who knows?
Yeah, you know, the outside of crypto, we talk about TradFi, right? A lot of people are familiar with the term cash equivalent. So cash or cash equivalents, right? And maintaining some level of exposure to cash versus securities, right? And the higher your risk profile, the more you're willing to take risks, the less cash you keep on hand, right? You go into you know, investments that might pay more. Well, crypto is by itself is just inherently more, you know, more risky just in general. But that's another methodology I've been exploring, thinking about like perhaps I should have, you know, cash equivalents and have a percentage in my mind. It's not necessarily 10% or whatever, but you know, but as the I might have a goal for just how much I need to be in stables.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
when you say cash equivalents, you mean stable coins?
Yeah, in this case, if we're talking about crypto, yeah. Yeah. And you know, what would be quote unquote stable and safe. And maybe that's in a different approach, you know, to be able to say, well, I want to maintain exposure at 10%, 20%, 50%, you know, stables.
There's
Maybe
games there. Like you can farm stables and then use your yield to funnel into whatever you want.
Oh, yeah. Somebody was talking about that today. I don't know who that was.
Totally.
Just
Sounds
a
like
little
a
while
smart
ago.
idea.
Just a little while ago.
Yeah.
Hey, the chat wants to know, Maddie, if you're going to do bull riding for entertainment.
I'd pay for that.
Bull riding. They had that at the Bitcoin conference.
I thought I'd be able to do it really easily. I didn't do too good. You know, I think I lasted about 7 seconds, 6 seconds, maybe less than that. It felt like a long time.
Yeah, there was a competition they had at the Bitcoin conference where you could like win a whole Bitcoin if you like stayed on the bull the longest. And this was like this was a couple of years ago in Miami, and I had coincidentally just met B Roots and Ian for the first time, and yeah, Ian did a pretty good job of staying on. Like he maybe had, I don't know, he was in like the top 10 at least.
They probably paid a ringer to come in. You could get for that kind of, you know, a whole Bitcoin, you'd get a professional bull rider to show up and take it, I would think.
Right. I think I think Bitcoin was only like 20K at the time or something.
Okay.
And I remember Naleb Bukele, he canceled because the price was so low. He was so underwater. He canceled his appearance. Like he just didn't show up. Sailor was there, and I've never seen like a man get mobbed by so many other men. He was like trapped. Michael Saylor's like this really short dude, and he was just like trapped in the sea of dudes. They were like taking with him, like without consent.
Actually, sounds pretty.
Like,
that sounds pretty exciting to me.
Depends what you're into, I guess. Yeah.
Pretty exciting.
Well, one day that'll be.
But that was before he like.
No judgment.
Yeah, that was before he did the infinite money printer glitch thing. So I can't imagine what it would be like now.
All right, we got Tony in the chat saying, "Hey, let's talk about the open hole on staking ladders after 2035 and the opportunity to fill those." Yeah, we covered that a little bit earlier too. That still remains there. Just going back to Hex for a moment. right? Big opportunities out there, guys. For anybody who's interested in acquiring more hex, I mean, getting those T-shares lined up 2035 onward seems like outsized gains. Brisology's in our chat. He says he never thinks in 10%. He's binary. I'm not sure what his situationship is, but yeah, he's binary.
Yeah.
He's either in or out. Hexy McHexagon. I can't even say that. Hexy McHexagon. Or just steak and chill. Johnny Chaos says, get a job, you bum. Some exposure to cash. You mean like have a job. That's a great idea. I should hit that one. Yeah.
This is my job, Johnny.
So you can keep your crypto. That is a point, Johnny, for sure. For sure. I'm not sure if this is Doji or Doggy. But Doggy says, how do you determine that 20% chance, though? You know, going back to Sami. Yeah, we don't know. It's all conditional.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was basing it on some data, but it was also like the reason I was bringing it up is just like that idea of like being, conditional probabilities, right? There's not like a 0% chance that our market only goes up. So there could be a black swan event. It could go up. And as Brisology was like playfully pointing out, and that was Sami's point, is that most people in crypto, they're so locked in because of the dopamine, but also because it's the behavior of holding on for dear life that causes you to make it this far in crypto, to have survived, what people have survived. And so,
sure.
Yeah, I think that I think it's also really interesting, like, his pointing out, like, oh, you could sell 2%, a week for a year, but that's actually not true. In the sense that, like, if everybody, or even a small percentage of people, like, sold 2% a week, like, that's all it would take, because that's how much liquidity there is. And so the fact that we know that most people who are new to crypto, they buy the top, that's because they're making the top, because that's when the most people are coming into crypto. And so the real game in crypto is, basically a cycle more than a.
Yeah, your mic is wrecked there, Maddie.
I think.
But I think the point you made is a good one. About that. Listen, I'm looking at the high level charts. Listen, anything can happen, right? But I don't see us being anywhere near top yet. But maybe there's a slim chance that we are. But I think if we were to hit a top, it wouldn't be a cycle top at this point. It would be more of a local top that's going to, we go sideways, at least in terms of Bitcoin and Ethereum, for a long time. And then, maybe we see some sort of a run up and blow off. But just looking at the numbers, I don't see anything that tells me that we're anywhere near a top.
Agreed.
But, like you say, you just don't know, right? So, I mean, I'll tell you when I see it. I'll talk about it. I guarantee you, when I do, people will be like, "No, man, this market's got so far to go." And I'm okay, But there is something to that, because not to really belabor the point, but just like the guys belabor the discussion about there can only be so many stakes that are Quattro Cinco on a single day, and they fill the block. Dude, the door is only so big. And there's only so much value on the Pulsechain, and everybody's not selling all of their crypto and getting out at the same moment, right? Just not happening. So as much as we might try, so you might think we're going to do that, so I think it's a little bit better planning, and a little tongue in cheek, but Johnny Chaos is right, and others have said this as well. Maybe the objective is not to get out of crypto. Maybe the objective should be to figure out how to stay in crypto.
Yep.
But at the same time, hey, people are looking to take value from you, so you got to have a plan for yourself. That's what I think is most important. Just having a plan about what you're expecting and what you're going to do. What buckets are you going to fill? What levers are you going to pull to fill them? What do you need? You know, if it is much like all the wealth in the world, they talk about this a lot. Like why do I need $10 million? I don't have $10 million, but why do I need $10 million? Well, I need $10 million because this problem, that problem, this other problem, and what if this happens? But in reality, even if I'm spending a lot of money, average household in the U.S. is making something I think it's around $65,000 to $80,000. So you mean to tell me if they just had $80,000 a year, that's not enough? They need 10 million, right? No, it's because we're always trying to hedge. But if we're building value into crypto, and the majority of people were doing that, it causes crypto to go up in value.
Yep.
So,
Adoption is key.
yeah, it's storing the value. So, yeah, I know it's kind of it's a horse that's been beaten, and I don't like beating horses.
I agree, indeed. I don't know. I think like being in crypto is a bit like being in a fight. Like you can go into the fight confident in your skills, but if you don't have a plan and you get hit, you're going to make mistakes. So if you have a plan for your exit, you have a DCA in, a DCA out plan. When you get hit, when something happens, you'll stay calm and you'll make a reasonable decision based on your previous planning. And you can change your plan on the fly. But if you have no plan, you're going to make a mistake.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, we got a good question for Maddie, if you can answer this. Astrotones here, he says, anybody have any insight on RH and CZ talking? They're best buddies, sending letters back and forth to each other. What's the moon math? In best case scenario, if an RH token ticker gets listed, I assume, on Binance. LOL. What's the best case? I don't know.
Like, I'd be really surprised if it was, if Richard wasn't just being tongue-in-cheek there with the whole letter thing. But, I mean, that doesn't rule it out. I just think, like, a lot of people are speculating on that. I saw a really funny Pulse TV episode about it where, I guess, like, Richard writes the love letter to CZ in prison, but like CZ thinks it was Sami that wrote it, so like he responds to Sami.
Right, because he follows Sami.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think like Binance isn't stupid. Like they have something like very similar to Pulsechain, right? Except theirs is centralized, called BNB token. Pulsechain was going to be a fork of Binance Smart Chain originally, and then we switched it up. But yeah, it makes total sense that Binance will be paying very close attention to what's happening in our ecosystem, because we've risen from being basically a joke that polarizes people to like being in the top 10 chains on a number of different factors, including total value locked and volume. So,
for sure, number 5 in the chain rankings by top blockchain networks by DEX total value locked, as I see it today.
I'm not even sure that was English, but I got it.
We're doing good. That's what I'm saying.
Doing good.
One interesting concept in regards to Binance, and this is actually one of the PDI conspiracy theories that I think could be most likely, is that like all these P copies, like when Richard did the world's biggest airdrop, like these big centralized dexes have a lot of them. So like they have copies of PDI, of PWBTC, of Aave, like all the things that people are talking about, they have those. And for them to and I've heard that people are starting to ask them for their P copies. Like I had wrap Bitcoin on Binance, and when this fork happened, so give me my P copy. So it might behoove them to list the P copies on their that they already have. So it could be a way for them to sell out, but that's fine. The P copies that are on Pulsechain could appear on something like Binance or on Coinbase because they're huge bag holders, and they already have the tokens. They could just pop them up there. And if they did that, it would only be natural that they would probably list at the very least Pulse, if not Hex and other core tokens as well. And that would actually probably be a good move for them. It would drive huge traffic. So CZ, if you're listening, turn it on, man. Flip the switch.
Yeah, I mean, he blocked me a long time ago, so I know he's not listening on Twitter at least, but maybe on YouTube.
Yeah, chances are. But I think the game theory there isn't terrible, and it's like, you know, like there's always elements of conspiracy and, you know, future telling to all this stuff, but that actually makes financial sense that they would offer the assets that they have to their users, right? Whereas they might have to go out and buy some things like that they didn't have. They didn't have X before. They would have to go buy it, right? Or we would have to give it to them, which is what they usually want you to do, which is probably not forthcoming. But like they have the P copies of everything that happened in the first moment when Pulsechain was launched. Like they have them. Whatever they had that day, they have copies of it. So like, why would they not turn that on? What's the downside aside from putting attention to the Pulsechain, which doesn't hurt them? So I think there could be
3 units.
Could be a win there. Yeah. And users, right? Like users to those centralized dexes are worth a lot. And like when you look at the TVL on Pulsechain, and you look at, they technically possess a portion of that TVL, and that they could entice some of those users to come use their centralized product, which is not something that our community is generally big on, but like it is a tool that's handy. Like having a centralized exchange for an off ramp or an on ramp can be pretty good. So yeah, I would be pretty excited if that happened, and I think it would make for a couple good days at the very least. You would see interesting things.
Yeah, again, like you said, I don't know that I'm like all in on a centralized exchange, but I could see some cases where it might be really convenient to do a swap for a token on an exchange that is for Pulsechain and send it off to my wallet, right?
Yep.
So I could see that because I'm pretty sure more than one person has sent something from Pulsechain off to an exchange and it disappeared forever. You know.
I've heard that story as well. Yeah.
Unretrievable. Well, it's not forever. I mean, it's only if they turn it on. It's in the wallet. You know.
Yeah. I've heard people send something that wasn't supposed to be there, and then the fee to get it back, the exchange charge, was more than the asset that they were trying to recover. So it was like, okay, I'm not going to pay you $2,000 to recover a $500 asset. So they have their downsides to be sure, but like they have their upsides, and they have users that would probably take a closer look at us. So I'm generally speaking not opposed to more Pulsechain tokens being listed on centralized exchanges.
Yeah. Well, perhaps it's not going to matter pretty soon. I don't know. Dexes, but in their nature, are freer, safer, cheaper. You know, we did see Coinbase begin to blaze the trail of becoming a DEX almost, right? So maybe perhaps that's going to be the future. I don't know. It's going to go back and forth for sure.
Oh. We'll see what the FOMO does. Everybody gets FOMO. It's easy to think that it's just like, oh, I'm new, so I get FOMO. I'm new, so so that in the moment I see the green candles and I want to buy. No, like every human feels those emotions, even guys like CZ. So when he sees Pulsechain is on number 3 on the list and Binance is number 4, like he might get FOMO too. These things are universal, unless you're a sociopath of some type.
I guess. No.
4D chess.
Well, it kind of feels like we might be wrapping up here soon. I'm not sure if Maddie's still with us. I hear his step.
Can you hear me?
Yep, here you are.
Sounds like it's raining.
Yeah. Yeah, we can wrap up.
Cool.
Fast Abdul, how come you don't wear a red shirt?
I do have a red shirt. I'm not usually wearing it, but red shirts don't. They tend not to do well.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah. The red
Yeah,
shirts in the original Star Trek, the red shirts were usually one episode only characters and did not survive the episode in question.
Yeah. Oh. All right. Well, I guess you good with closing up? Or do you want to talk about some more stuff? Anything burning, hot burning? I don't see anything in the chat. People
Oh,
making fun of
hey,
you.
I got something if my audio is not too wrecked.
You're good.
I heard a really interesting discussion about Maddie token on the 9-inch weekly live stream on Sunday with Fast Abdul.
I was there.
Oh, is that scam token?
No, in fact, Maddie token was being praised for, dropping or adding basically $37,000 of liquidity in Pulsechain.
Wow.
And, basically making a carefully written statement on my Twitter that was explaining what's possible and the fact there's no promises, but it seemed like the commentary was so far positive that some people were even thinking that they might apologize forever doubting the situation with Maddie token and pointing out that it's basically there's only 3 days out of 200 now that you ever could have bought and not be in profit. Can't say that about every token. Sacrificers are up compared to their sac rate points, something like 250% at least. So yeah, lots of good news there on the Maddie token, and I guess I still see haters posting like there's no liquidity, even when there is. So I mean, it doesn't seem like that's going to change, but whatever.
Haters be hating.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the liquidity setup for it looks pretty good. It's at 55K for liquidity.
Yeah.
And I'd have to do some more analysis, but the speed of Pulsechain is around. Well, it's usually been ranging. When it's fast, it's like 19. 0.19, almost 20% of the liquidity to value moves on a daily basis. Anyways, and it ranges between like 11 and 19, and Maddie's right there at the bottom range of that right now at 11. So that's pretty decent, actually. When you look at a lot of tokens out there, they don't have much movement, right? So it's not the worst situation for sure.
Another interesting observation that may or may not have been covered in my tweet is that at the current ratio of Maddie to Pulsechain, if Pulsechain were to go to sac rate, given the current liquidity setup, basically Maddie would be trading at $10, which which is kind of interesting because there's been some speculation that it's an interesting kind of it's interesting to know whether Maddie or PDI will peg first to their intended targets and all that good kind of stuff. But I think some of the psychology, having something, trading at a certain value or able to be bought back even without any promises, to the point of having something be over collateralized, that's particularly interesting and something that's being played with there in people's minds that are commenting on it.
Oh, very nice. That's good news.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agreed. Yeah, that was a good endorsement from those guys. It was. It seemed very honest at the time, right? Like they brought it up with sincerity. So, good on you.
There were a lot of really good parts to that stream, and I listened to it today. Even though the YouTube was like muting 2 minutes at a time, so
Really?
there's like these huge holes in like the live stream, maybe like 4 or 5 of them because of copyright music that was playing in the background.
Okay.
So, yeah, like it was such good alpha. I would recommend listening to the stream, even with the parts you have to fast forward.
I'll have to watch it myself. I was there, but I can't remember what the alpha was. Okay, great.
There you go.
A lot of smart people in this community. So yeah, any of these big streamers, Money Gang, Hexy, like they always have something to say. It's not. I think that you have to make your own decisions. Nothing's ever financial advice, but like yeah, you can get want to know how things work. Watch the big streamers that are doing the work, and that you can actually usually reach out to if you had a question. So it's this is the community for support compared to anywhere else I've ever been. That being said, there's tons of scammers out there. I will never DM you. Crispy will never DM you. Maddie will never send you a private message. If somebody does, it's probably a scammer. Beware.
Yeah. I think one of the points that was brought up there is that when people do this single-sided staking for Pulsechain on 9-inch, they can earn something like 7% yield in BBC if they lock for like a particular period of time, like a particularly long hard block, which that's really cool, man. Like, I promote that with Time Pays Me, which, the only yield there is saving yourself from yourself and price appreciation or depreciation. And so that offering from 9-inch is pretty cool.
And they're just giving away money with that. Like that Pulsechain that gets locked on 9-inch doesn't go anywhere or do anything. They're not using it to make fees in the background. Like it's literally, they're just giving you their BBC token as a reward for locking for an extended period of time. So, that is definitely a supportive option that they've done to what is essentially a competing DEX, right? Because like a Pulsechain and 9-inch are pretty much the same thing. Like they're a fork of the same code. They do the same thing. They carry a lot of the same tokens. So I think that was a pretty humanitarian move. I'd probably need a bribe to do it.
Yeah, very cool.
Speaking of bribes, soon we're going to have our bribery protocol out. So we'll have live smart contract bribes on the Pulsechain. You'll be able to get a bribe for voting for different pools to receive more yield on both fucks and 2fucks. And we might even work 9-inch into that mix because they're talking about having a DAO system where there's a vote on what gets to be the next farm on their DEX. And if that is the case, then those votes are worth money. And we'll try to elicit bribes for those votes, but not in a seedy way, like very upfront, clear, smart contracts. Something to watch for. But yeah, we're pretty good. Going to be live pretty soon on that. Maybe before Christmas even.
Wow, congrats. That's coming up quick.
Thanks.
Good job.
And my dream is that Pulsechain becomes a DAO one day, which is not impossible because if 9-inch can do it, Pulsechain can do it by default because they're basically the same code. So yeah, if Pulsechain became a DAO, and let's say that Inc was the DAO token, which seems like the right choice to me, though maybe Pulsechain is the DAO token, then yeah, we would probably be buying and selling those votes as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So your new protocol would be compatible.
Yeah, we're totally positioned for that. If that is the case. So I have no idea if that is what Richard was planning, but like it's in the code that it could be that. And to me, it makes sense that there could be that added utility in the future, and that a DAO mechanism, might not be a bad thing. The crowd's not always right, but their opinion matters. So I think, I could see that being an option to add utility to the Ink token. And imagine what it would do for the price of the Ink token if the Ink token was what decided what got to be a farm on PulseX. That would be very bullish to me.
Oh yeah.
And thus there'd be Brett.
Crazy.
Everybody likes Brett.
Hey, can I ask you guys something about this whole like PDI ecosystem?
Go for it.
So like, what's the deal with like the Atropa dev Maria, who like apparently like has $150 million of liquidity with like all these different tokens, or somebody does, and then basically they're like launching new tokens every day, and like there's this sub ecosystem I didn't know about where like people are completing missions that are secretly written in the blockchains, like get a certain amount of this new token and then trade it for like the newer token, so on and so forth, like some sort of like weird game.
I've heard some gamifications and some weird like communication methods that the Atropa dev uses. I was just watched and commented in the chat of a very strange live stream that was like 9 minutes long, where he came on and he was just talking in the chat, not talking out loud, and saying various strange things that I couldn't decipher. So I think the sort of code of it is what makes it not the code of the actual tokens, but the code of the system is what makes it enticing to people, whether it's real or not. So I think there's definitely some mystery to it that pulls some people in. As far as like the liquidity and stuff goes, like when you pair a meme token against a meme token, you can make a pretty big number. It doesn't mean that it's real. Like everything has to touch real money at some point for people to actually be able to cash out. So when you have a lot of things that are paired against each other in a liquidity web, it can look very impressive, but the actual result when people try to leave is not as impressive. So I would be a little bit cautious about that sort of thing with an ecosystem that's launching like 3 tokens a week, right? Like where is the money coming from? What happens if somebody wants to leave? And then if you look at the history of all the tokens, some of them have done quite well, but some of them have not done quite well. So like, do you really want to try do you want to try to be on the cutting edge and follow that very closely, or do you want to look at core tokens that are a little more secure? I think people should participate with everything with moderation, but not financial advice. It's your bags. But I think the core tokens are probably the safer bet versus trying to follow that web. Unless you're deep into it and you know what you're doing, then more power to you. I hope you make $1 million. But I want everybody to win, but I don't. Some people are going to lose. There's going to be losers in any of these ecosystems. So stick with your conviction if you can.
There you go. Interesting.
Yeah. We can do a deeper dive one day, but it's like, there's a big spider web there, and I'm not sure you're supposed to figure it out.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't have any more insight than you guys have already shared on it, but it is quite interesting. Probably not for this stream, but the thumbnail is listen, if I make a token, a brand new token, and I put up no LP, nothing happens, right?
Right.
So I make my token and I put it up against Pulse. Does anything happen? Yeah, maybe just a little tiny bit because I put it up. Maybe somebody sniper bot grabbed a little bit. A little bit gets sent to the buy and burn, right? So, but all in all, pretty much if I just set up a token with Pulse, it's just going to go to 0, right? well, not to zero. It'd just kind of like trend like forever down against Pulse, right? Just
Wow.
little bit, right? And so then, if I have a token like that, it's pretty much stagnant and not going to move. But if I pair it up with other things, Johnny Sachs rule of three, where you have at least three LPs, and he's not probably not the only one that thinks that. I mean, I've heard that from Sonny as well. You can get some cross action, and you actually have something, right? So let's say I do that. I set up a token, and this would be, say PDI falls into this case, right? As that token, it wasn't created, but it existed. It had all these pools. Well, when I create a second token, and I'm not saying this is exactly what the Atropa dev did, but that second token is Atropa. Well, if I pair it heavily with PDI, and that's the only thing I pair it with because I have the most units early, and I burn that. Well, what's the path to Atropa? The path to Atropa is through PDI, right? And so this genius guy, this Atropa dev, right? He made hundreds of these tokens, and he determined what ratios he wanted them to be able to trade in and which flow paths to open, and it's a giant network of tokens that, depending on what you do with one and what kind of liquidity is up with one, if you shut off the valve, the water doesn't flow that way anymore, or you want to say whatever terminology you want to use for cutting off the flow. It'll flow through the next path, and you cut off two, it goes to the third one, et cetera, et cetera. So it's definitely, and he talked about this in his interviews, but he's basically attempting to have a way to control where the flow of volume goes through his network. I mean, that's the real simple answer. He's controlling it, and he's controlling it through the liquidity that's available.
That's an interesting concept, but like for the casual user, like if you're into it and you're on top of it, sounds like there could be a win there, but it sounds like you could get burned there too, right? Like if you pick the thing that is no longer part of the flow, how does that work out?
For us users, yeah. If you don't know the inside story, you could find yourself in trouble, right?
Yeah.
But it's fluid flow dynamics, right? Is what's going on, and it's not fluid. It's value in the blockchain. But yeah. I mean, there's a new one that came out this week. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Hox. Is it Hox? HOX?
Not even sure.
And
primarily, I've heard of that.
Yeah. Primarily, I don't know that that's the right terminology, but primarily, I believe primarily, LP'd with EHEX, that's poised to be an EHEX collector, right? So what does that mean? Well, while EHEX is down and that's down, and that's heavily, I haven't eyeballed this myself, so this is like secondhand. If you have a very heavy LP between the EHEX and this particular token, well, what do we know about Hart's Law? If that token goes up 10x, right, the token will attract more EHEX into the pool. So it's a way to siphon the EHEX out of the market and bring it in the pool. And previously, that dev, Maria, has talked about pegging, EHEX to PDI. So okay. I think he's talked about that. He certainly talked about pegging it with PX. So, anyways, I don't know if these attempts will be successful or these methodologies will be successful, but you can see a lot of experimentation going on.
There's no code to these things that most of the time, I don't think. Like what I heard is that he doesn't like tax tokens, so like they're not charging a fee. Some of them seem to be mintable somehow, which makes me generally nervous. But like it's mostly just liquidity webs, which is cool. But I don't see the tech of how that pegs it to anything.
Well, I think we're just too far away from it. I think that's what it is, because if you're not in there doing the studying and looking at the 500 assets and seeing how the liquidity map is designed and knowing in particular why it's designed that way, I mean, it's kind of like a puzzle, right? And that's why a lot of the times, people do back out just the way you just said. Stick to the surface level. We know that it's working to benefit certainly that ecosystem, but to benefit the Atropa PDI link and to a benefit of PDI. So naturally, a lot of people took exposure through PDI.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns with any of this stuff, with any of these P copies and ecosystems attached. Obviously there could be huge wins, but
I mean, there's one token I bought that went to $3 million. That's nice. On there. You might even know about it. I mean, I can't even tell you what the symbol means, but I'd have to go look it up. But I wanted a piece of that, so yeah, I followed it all the way up to 3 million. And I didn't buy a whole token because I got in late, but I think it went from a few $100,000 to over $2 million. And but is that real value? You be the judge. But I mean, I know obviously selling it might not be possible.
I can make a token go to $1 million. I'll do that for you after the stream. We'll just make a 10-cent liquidity pool, and I'll put in $10 and you put in $10 into the liquidity pool, like I'm buying it up, and we can pump that
sure.
to $1 million.
Yeah, sure. Tongue in cheek. I agree with you. But I would give Maria a lot more credit than that, because I think it's a lot more. This is not just simply a case of somebody creating crap coins and pumping them. It's not. It's with it's with a purpose, and so I'd like to give him whatever his pronoun. I would like to give they as much respect as possible. And
I agree. It seems like a smart person, right? Like I did watch this one odd stream where it's just like him talking to only other devs and talking about like really heavy stuff. Like I didn't understand all of it, but I understood enough to know that he was talking about, crypto games and security. And it was like a high level, like, okay, this person's smart. It's a real dev. So like, they're probably not just launching meme coins. And I can tell that they have code when I look on the Block Explorer, but they're not verified. So I can't tell what the code does without paying one of my devs to tell me, which I don't want to do. So there's something there. I just have no idea what it is.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like this. I'm glad he's on our side.
Could be true. You can say that for a lot of people around here. I'm glad you're on our side.
I'm glad
you're on our side.
I'm glad you're on my side. I'm glad my perception is I'm glad that Maria is on our side, Pulsechain side. Because I'll tell you what, there's a lot there. Like you said, because
it's heavy. It's thick, and it's weird. Heavy, thick, and weird.
Well, maybe. I just think it's kind of a brilliant mapping out. It's so much math, so many calculations and whatnot. I mean, this whole idea of there being a game, and the only way you can get a ticket to the game is you have to have a certain token, and the only way you can get that token is to buy it off the market for a very expensive price, or have participated in the pre-game festivities, right? Of getting the right tokens at the right time, minting the right tokens with those tokens, with et cetera, et cetera. I don't even know the details, that's what I mean. But at the end of the day, at least the proclaimed support is for Pulsechain, more importantly Hex, and the pegging of EHEX to Hex. I believe that's the stated goals, including PDI going to $1, So, I mean, all those things, I mean, anyways, I mean, we'll back all the way back out of this. I haven't seen anything nefarious come out of any of those. Bet people, taking gambles and loss, sure, I bet they did, but they do that in a lot of crypto. But, it's all been very good. And when we get all the way back out to that PDI conversation that Maddie started with, like I said many times before, and others have said it too, and just reemphasize it, you're not getting rid of the P stables or the P copies. They're here. We're not going anywhere. It's not like you can cut off pieces of your body, right? And maybe some pieces, but you can't cut too many of them off. Things don't work anymore, and so there's a lot of Maddie knows what I'm talking about.
I
I
try
didn't
to
even
minimize that.
yeah, I try not to cut pieces off, but I mean, True Blue in the chat said the same thing. Heavy, thick, and weird, right? But I mean, we're not getting rid of PDI, whether you don't like it or you do like it. Doesn't matter. I mean, there's millions of dollars now worth of LP. There always has been, millions of units, but now it's millions of dollars on things that nobody has control over, like Uniswap. Sunk liquidity all over the place. So
Yeah.
it ain't going anywhere, and it's
Oh,
going to affect the system.
And that's why we're building on top of it, like to use it as collateral for a stablecoin. And we wouldn't do that if we didn't see
Somebody should use it as collateral for a stablecoin.
That's a great idea. I know a guy.
You know a guy. 2 weeks. I think I heard 2 weeks.
Maybe a month.
Maybe a month. All right. Yeah. And that, for those of you who only tuned in at the end, we're speaking about the P stability, liquidity.
Liquidity. No
yeah, whatever. Fork that Fast Abdul's working on. Completely separate from the 2P Hux IO.
That is correct. Unaffiliated.
Completely separate.
Wow. Thanks for the props there, Crispy.
Well, that was a good tie-up of the conversation.
It was.
And then maybe one last thing. I did do an analysis this last week on just what a simple PDI, PUSDC to PDI, LP V2 might do. If you set that, and I know the old two P Hux, and P Hux has a tri-pair, including the PUSDT. But this analysis was just on the two of them. And I don't know, by my guess would be that if I set up $1,000 pool, between those P stables, and this narrative was to come true, that's probably a good 50x plus. So $1,000 pool could, your little LP position go to 50,000, earning, while it's up there at that number, a good percentage of APR, because at that point it would be yet another part of our stable network, right? If that was to happen, and this is without saying, hey, it's gonna actually stabilize to $1 or not, but just the concept that you can grow a liquidity pool, 50x, and so $1,000 is too much, but you want exposure. Go set a $100 position, $50 and $50, be part of the game.
Yep.
I don't know.
Make some fees, make some yield. I just set up a new one this week, 50-50 PDI to EDI.
Yeah, I saw that. 9inch has that too.
Oh, do they? Okay. Yeah, so there's a couple places where you have DI from Ethereum paired to PDI. So that I think they'll generate some fees. I think probably the one you're talking about, like where you have P stables paired against P stables, I think that's the lower impermanent loss option, quite likely, one way or another. But I think this one will generate a lot of fees too, which obviously the participants will be able to cash in on. So that'll be fun.
Yep. Well, and this week, I don't know if anybody else saw this, but and just because we're talking about this, I'm not endorsing people run out and get all these things, but you got to do your own research and make sure you got your hex and core position already set, that before you chase this up. That's just my opinion, not financial advice. But that there's another token that is part of this whole compound thing called CDI, like ABC die, and CDI is the compound reward token that is linked, at least on the Ethereum side, it's linked to as a reward for people who lock DAI into the compound contract. But some really curious things happened this week. Now, whether this was community driven or whether or not somebody was doing something, I don't know. There were some reports that as a result of people locking PDI into into the Maker protocol or the Compound protocol, perhaps. Maybe that's what it is. But um, it was creating an awful lot of transactions with CDI. And so for a couple days here this week, I had pairs that I'm tracking that were doing like they were spinning so fast they were doing like 2,000% APR.
Interesting.
That were
I would be nervous about the CDI just because, like, without doing any sort of deep dive and just taking my surface knowledge about Compound. Like, Compound is a lending protocol on Ethereum that would have been copied when the fork happened. That for sure has a whole bunch of admin keys. It's definitely not immutable because it can't be. Like, parts of it would be, obviously, but like it wouldn't be. There'd be more buttons that could be pressed there. Maybe it could be minted. Like maybe it can be minted to infinity. I have no idea, but like it's definitely not something that has no admin keys where it's the amount is set. If somebody came over to Pulsechain that had those admin keys, they could do something with it. I don't know what they could do, but yeah, it's not definitively safe in my opinion. But it is an interesting addition to the narrative, perhaps, and I'm sure somebody could spin that up into quite the tale.
Yeah, and I have no idea how or why it might be in use at this point, or anything about it, right? But we just kind of like talking out loud, about it.
There's always going to be a next thing, I think. But I think like for a community to have some focus, I think there's value there. Because even if you look at the other stable coins, like lesser known stable coins, Frax, GUSD, MUSD, like there's a bunch of them, and they all kind of move together, even the ones you've never heard of move together along with PDI and USDC, etc. So I'm sure narratives could be formed for all, but yeah, I think it's too much for people to bite off at a certain level too, which is part of what makes PDI attractive to the general audience. You have this concept of like somebody said it's going to $1 and it's only 2 cents right now, and people can understand that. And if you spend time in the PDI like Telegram chat, you can tell there's a lot of new people there who don't know the ins and outs of crypto. They're probably somewhat at risk of scammers and such. And like that narrative is strong. If you add too many layers to it, right? I think that could be a negative for the community as a whole.
Yeah, and in just about a month, they added another 1,000 users to that Telegram. It had been, I had reported on it back in May, and there's about 3,500. It went up to about 5,500 about a month ago. Now there's 6,500. So yeah, there's definitely some people there that are digging into the narrative for sure.
Yep, lots of new people.
Well, I'm sorry to say we are reaching our limit on this stream, according to Maddie. We're hitting just 2 hours and 20 minutes here. You have anything you want to say goodbye to everybody, Maddie? Can you give us any information about the future
or the past?
Oh, my signal's a little bit wrecked, but yeah, thanks for tuning in, and yeah, I think it's been a great show. Appreciate you guys filling in. Everybody wish me luck driving to Texas through the night tonight, and yeah, moving in, all this stuff is going to take a long time, so wish me luck on that. And anything else you guys want to say?
When Austin, let's go.
Yeah,
we're coming down. I've never been to Austin. I've been to a lot of places in Texas, but not Austin.
Yeah,
worth the trip.
Absolutely, awesome.
All right.
Right on.
And Fast Abdullah, where can we find you?
You can find me at 2phux.
You in the gutter?
Sometimes, but more reliably at 2phux.io.
Do you accept loonies where you are or no? No loonies?
We do accept loonies. Loonies and toonies are the main currencies of my realm. Those are real currencies, just so you know, in Canada.
It's a funnel.
American coins are generally welcome in Canada. Like if somebody has an American quarter, it just gets put in the drawer like it was a regular quarter. But I don't think it goes the other way. I don't think I can take my loonies to you and you'll just take it for cash.
Yeah, something about them being too light.
Yeah, could be. And the picture of a duck on it and stuff. Yeah, maybe not the thing. But 2phx.io, links to the Telegram in there. You can also take a look at pstability.com. That's a very quick website I did up in about an hour and a half for our upcoming Liquidity fork. And there'll be more information on these new things in the future. Thanks for having me, Maddie.
Yeah, again, I'd like to give you a compliment on just how exceptional that title is, P Stability. It's
on the nose, isn't it?
I mean, branding is everything.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, you guys can find me at hexfire.io. Check it out. And thanks, everybody.
All right. Until next time, stake wisely, my friends. Peace out.
Stake wisely. I usually stay crisp in between. And now this is where I got to figure out your branding. Maddie has about 5 million things in his custom branding out there. How would you like to end, Maddie? With what music do you want to listen to?
The third one from the list.
You want to do Daydreaming? Daydreaming? That's normal. Yeah. I like Feeding the Ducks,
We can feed the duck.
This is mine, but now that's your stream. So we're gonna say no to the ducks. We're gonna do Daydreaming. I can't sing tonight. And with that, everyone, thank you very much. I'm going to see if I can find the right outro. Is there an outro picture you like, Maddie, the most?
I don't think we have it loaded today, so whatever goes.
So no Hex is dead. All right, everybody. Hey, again, everybody, thanks for checking in with us. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. If I can ever get there, peace. We'll see you next week. Well, I guess will we see you next week? That's probably a good question before you go, Maddie. It's Christmas Eve next week.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The streak must continue. It's been 212 weeks, so it doesn't matter. Right. Yeah.
I may have to call mine in. All right. With that, we'll see you. I'll follow it up.